everyone, and good evening. Welcome to the Linglobe channel. This time, we'll be bringing you content about preserving the world's languages for the future. Please enjoy it to the end.
Welcome to Linglove Voice.
It's great to be here.
So today we are using the Linglove materials to explore something truly incredible. Imagine building an empire that spans an entire continent over freezing mountain peaks without the wheel or iron tools or even a written alphabet.
Right, it's almost hard to comprehend.
It really is. So let's jump right into slide 1. Introduction to the Quechua people. We're looking at the largest indigenous group in South America.
Yeah, and they are the direct descendants of the ancient Inca civilization. The materials really highlight their incredible resilience. They have this fiercely vibrant identity that honestly still forms the backbone of the entire Andean region today.
Which brings us to the sheer scale of that community today. Here's slide 2. A population of 8 million. When I hear something like descendants of the Inca, I usually picture a history museum exhibit.
Sure, people tend to think of it as a thing of the past.
Exactly. But 8 million people, that's larger than the population of many modern countries.
It is. They're definitely not a relic. This is a highly active community. They're involved in contemporary politics, they run large-scale businesses, they produce modern media.
So it's about active revitalization, not just preservation.
Exactly. They aren't treating their culture as a fragile artifact behind glass. They're taking their foundational values and actively applying them to the 21st century.
Wow. So where exactly are all these people living? Let's pull up slide 3, the Andean footprint. Looking at the map and the Linglove materials, they're essentially living right along the vertical spine of South America.
Yeah, it's a massive geographical spread. The primary populations are concentrated in Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador.
But they reach even further than that, right?
They do. Significant Quechua communities extend into southern Colombia, northern Chile, and even northwestern Argentina.
That's a huge footprint.
It is, and living across that footprint means dealing with constant extreme altitude, thin air, volatile weather.
A really harsh environment.
Very harsh. It requires a societal structure built specifically for vertical living.
To understand how they established that vertical footprint, we need to look back. Here is slide 4, Ancestral History. The Inca Empire. This takes us back to the 13th through 16th centuries.
Right, when they forged one of the most complex societies on Earth. And the primary mechanism holding that massive empire together was actually the Quechua language itself.
Because they didn't have a traditional written alphabet.
Exactly. So the spoken language functioned as the ultimate administrative infrastructure. It was the key to their vast trade networks and rapid communication across all those diverse terrains.
So, building this empire in the mountains naturally requires solving a massive logistical problem. That brings us to slide 5. Agricultural mastery at high altitudes. Farming at extreme mountain altitudes seems nearly impossible to me.
It definitely sounds impossible. The soil is rocky and nighttime temperatures drop below freezing.
Right. So how did they survive the freezing microclimates? How did they not just starve?
Well, long before the Inca, they established advanced terracing. They basically carved massive steppe-like fields right into the steep mountainsides.
Oh, like those iconic giant green stairs.
Yeah, exactly. But it did more than just create flat land. The stone retaining walls of those terraces were actually engineered to absorb the sun's intense heat during the day.
Wait, really? Like a thermal battery?
Pretty much. At night, as the mountain air dropped below freezing, those stones slowly released the trapped heat, which kept the root systems from freezing.
That is genius. But what exactly were they growing on those steep slopes? Let's look at slide 6, Secret Crops, the fuel of the Andes. And this is fun because if you look in your pantry right now, you probably have some of these.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking about native potatoes, Andean maize, and quinoa.
The ultimate fuel of the Inca Empire.
Yes, and they aren't just foods. They're highly resilient survival tools that are central to Quechua identity. But, growing the food is only half the battle. Storing it was the real trick.
Right, the freeze drying.
Yeah, they invented a technique to create something called chuño. They would leave potatoes out in the freezing night air, then expose them to the intense daytime sun, and literally stomp the moisture out of them.
Which gives them food that lasts for years.
Decades, even.
Wow. But crops alone can't support an economy. They needed heavy lifters to move all this, which is slide 7, Andean livestock, llamas and alpacas. And there's a big difference between the two, right?
A huge difference. You can't just use horses or oxen at that altitude. The llama is biologically engineered for transportation.
They're the freight trains of the Andes.
Exactly. They even have specialized spongy footpads so they don't destroy the delicate mountain trails. The alpaca, on the other hand, serves a totally different economic function.
Wool production, right?
Yep. High-altitude temperatures are brutal, so the thermal properties of fine alpaca wool are essential for survival. It's a cornerstone of their textile economy.
Managing these massive agricultural and trade systems brings up an interesting point. Slide 8. Community cooperation. Mutual aid. This sounds to me like the original form of extreme crowdsourcing.
That's a great way to put it. It's a centuries-old social structure defined by collective labor and mutual aid. The reality is, no one survives the mountains alone.
I mean, you can't build a massive stone terrace by yourself.
No, you can't. So traditions of community-based cooperation are strictly enforced. Resources are collectively managed. If you help your neighbor roof their house today, that labor is banked.
So they're obligated to help you harvest your fields tomorrow.
Exactly. You survive as an interdependent unit.
To coordinate this intense level of mutual aid, they needed a unifying language. That leads to slide 9, the Quechuan language family. And the Lynn Glove materials note that it isn't just one language, is it?
No, it's actually a diverse family of regional dialects. And it's incredible it survived, given the centuries of severe colonial suppression where speaking it was often banned outright.
But it's officially recognized now, right?
It is. It's officially recognized in Peru, Bolivia, and Ecuador today. And it survived mostly because it's so deeply tied to those mutual aid practices we just talked about.
Right, you can't participate in the community without the language. Which makes me wonder, and this is slide 10, linguistic logic. Agglutination, is it difficult to learn? Because I really struggle with new languages.
Well, it requires a different architectural approach to thinking. But it's incredibly logical. Agglutination basically means you build meaning systematically by stacking suffixes.
Like snapping Lego building blocks together.
Precisely. It uses a strict subject-object-verb order, and honestly, it completely lacks tonal variations. You don't have to worry about changing your pitch to change a word's meaning.
Oh, that's a relief.
Yeah, you just rely on clear logic to build complex sentences.
And that modular block stacking logic made it the perfect export. Here's slide 11, Quechua as the lingua franca.
Right. It originated in the central highlands of Peru, but its highly adaptable structure was super useful. The Inca Empire strategically adopted it to bridge countless distinct Andean communities.
So instead of forcing a confusing language on a new tribe, they provided a logical tool.
Exactly. It became a true lingua franca, allowing a vast multi-ethnic empire to interface and trade seamlessly.
Let's look at the actual building blocks in daily life. Slide 12. Daily expressions, common phrases. I love looking at the phonetics of these. Like for hello, it's Remai.
Right, and for good morning, the phrase is Alan Punche.
And thank you is Supaiki. But my personal favorite is the word for fun, or enjoyable, which is kusiku. It just has a great rhythm to it.
It really does. And that rhythm reflects the warmth of their social structures. The phrases are highly functional, but they're also inherently polite to reinforce those continuous social bonds.
Just as the language unifies them through sound, they're also united through powerful visual emblems. Let's look at slide 13, the Wiphala flag, a symbol of unity. This is definitely not your standard flag with a coat of arms.
No, the Wiphala is visually striking. It's a perfect 7x7 square checkerboard made entirely of rainbow colors.
And there's a mathematical intention behind that grid, right?
Yeah, it signifies absolute equality. Because no single color dominates the visual field, it reflects their mutual aid philosophy that everyone plays an equal part.
It also represents harmony with nature.
Yes, and its cultural weight is so massive that it's actually an official national symbol in Bolivia today.
That concept of harmony with nature forms their entire worldview, which brings us to slide 14, cosmology, sun, puma, and condor. They break existence down into 3 interconnected realms.
Right. Intuma, the sun, represents the source of all life and agricultural energy. Then there's the puma, which represents Pacha, the earthly, physical reality.
Because the puma is so strong and masters the rough terrain.
Exactly. And finally, the condor represents Pacha. Since it flies higher than any other bird, navigating the extreme peaks, it acts as a sacred messenger to the heavens.
This cosmology isn't just an abstract idea, though. It is physically woven into what they wear. Let's pull up slide 15. Textile traditions. Art in thread. Looking at these garments, it's like they're wearable history books or local ID cards.
That's a perfect analogy. These brightly colored fabrics use geometric designs and naturally derived pigments to encode specific information.
Like what kind of information?
Things like regional identity, social status, even marital status. And the geometric motifs actually depict agricultural cycles and their cosmological beliefs.
So they are literally wearing their worldview.
They really are.
That vibrant visual art is perfectly matched by their auditory art. Here is slide 16. Andean music. Flutes and rhythm. You can almost feel the pulse of the Andes with these instruments.
Music is such a functional tool for them. You have the quena, which is the soul-stirring vertical flute, and then the zampoña, the multi-piked pan flute.
And the zampoña has that fascinating mechanical requirement, right?
Yeah, the notes are often split between two different instruments. So a single melody actually requires groups of musicians to play in perfectly timed interlocking cooperation.
Wow, so the music literally forces the community to cooperate.
Exactly. When you pair that with the dynamic pulse of Huayno music and dance, it actively maintains generational community bonds.
That deep cooperation was brutally tested, which leads us to slide 17. Spiritual syncretism, blending beliefs. The materials mention the 16th century blending of Catholic and Indigenous faiths.
Right. But it wasn't just a peaceful blending. Following the Spanish colonization, Catholicism was enforced with extreme violence.
So the blending was more of a survival tactic.
It was subversive brilliance, really. They outwardly adopted Catholic saints, but secretly mapped them onto their own deities. They hid their deep reverence for Pachamama, Mother Earth, behind the Virgin Mary.
And they aligned major events like Inti Raymi, the Sun Festival, with Catholic feast days.
Exactly, allowing them to practice their beliefs in plain sight.
Understanding that survival tactic leads directly to slide 18, resilience through history. I mean, it's a miracle these traditions survived the 1530s Spanish conquest and centuries of forced labor.
Well, the political collapse was rapid, mostly due to devastating European diseases like smallpox. But the Quechua people survived for two main reasons. First, their geographic isolation offered some protection.
And second,
Their unyielding commitment to those foundational traditions, like collective mutual aid. It allowed them to endure systematic suppression. And today, they are global leaders in indigenous rights.
and despite that heavy history, they maintain an incredibly joyful spirit. Let's look at slide 19, joyful traditions. Games and celebration. I love learning about traditional festival games.
Play is so critical for relieving the stress of high-altitude life.
The Linglove materials detail some really fun ones, like Sapo, which is tossing coins into a metal frog's mouth.
Yeah, a game of precise skill. There's also Trompo, where you spin a traditional wooden top with a string, and Cuckoo, a classic target throwing game. These are highly competitive intergenerational activities that bring everyone together.
Which brings us to our final look at this amazing community. Slide 20. Conclusion. The living heartbeat of the Andes.
When we look at the Quechua today, it's just a masterclass in adaptation. They fully participate in modern education, politics, and international business. But they keep their foundational logic, their language, and their community values completely intact. They truly remain the living heartbeat of the Andes.
Thank you for watching until the end. We will continue to bring you many more languages from around the world. Please subscribe to our channel. See you next time on the Ling Globe channel.